This is Charles Di Bartolo of Better Staten Island, and I'm here with Keith Christensen, president of Staten Island Boy Scouts, and we're going to talk about everybody's getting back to normal. People are going back out and doing things, and it's time to get the kids involved and doing things outside and with people, team effort on Staten Island. And I think Boy Scouts is the perfect way to get parents to get their kids out there and get things done and have a good time and learn integrity. And I think that's what scouting is all about. I have a habit of calling it Boy Scouts.
Right.
It's not just Boy Scouts anymore, right, Keith? So what's been going on with that?
Well, thank you, Charlie, for having me and having the Boy Scouts here. You know, there's an old saying, scouting is outing, and it's going out and not necessarily camping all the time, but getting out, doing things. Maybe it's for a hike. Maybe it's helping out your local church, or you know, getting involved with sports. So there's many different things that scouts can do, and it is based upon the troop or the team, and it builds the group mentality, and it also focuses on the individual when it comes to rank advancements.
Right. Well, you know, I think one of the leading mottos is be prepared.
That's right.
And that is a wonderful thing. I see kids today, maybe I'm getting old, the last thing they are is prepared, right? No matter how hard the parents try, no matter, and it's funny that, you know, scouting's around for what, 108 years?
About that, yeah.
Roughly,
yeah.
Right? And they have a system. And, you know, I have this handbook here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's a handbook on scouting. This is an old one. It's about 8 years old. I think I went through 2 books.
Okay.
But my son started when he was 6. He was a Tiger. He's the cameraman and develops everything on this show.
Right.
And he started as a Tiger and knew nothing about anything. And we just went through the book, piece by piece.
Right.
And it prepared him for life. And this is what I see, that when I see these kids today, they have no social skills. They have no, and when I say this, it's a product of the environment we've been in. The last 3 years has been horrible on kids.
Right.
And not only that, there, you know, I was, give you an example. I went to the city this weekend, took the ferry, and everybody's doing this. They're walking like zombies, and they're looking at their phones, and the whole outside world is not even there.
Right.
The earbuds are in, they're on their phone, and they're just moving through life, watching it pass them by. They don't even see it.
Right.
Right? And what I love about scouting is every weekend there's something going on. One day a week they do something. At least once a month they do an event where everybody gets together. They make things happen. They pitch tents, they tie knots, they cook their own food, they learn how to prepare meals. They learn how to work together to make something happen.
Right.
And today, everybody's doing it themselves on the phone. Boom, boom, boom. They just, okay, I could do it. And this is what they do. The phone is an extension of their brain. They think it's their intelligence, right? I don't want to, it's not just about the phone.
Right.
But it's just, one of the things I loved, and we're getting away from that today, is when you go on a camping trip, the phones go away. And the kids actually do things and work together, and they'll play trivia games, and they'll learn about things, and they make it in a fun way, you know?
Right, right. And every time you go on a trip or an outing, there's an agenda. There is a leader involved, whether it is youth leaders working with adult leaders. There's a timeline for things to get done. There are tasks assigned. There are definitely things to do. And yes, the Scout Handbook is a guide for all of that. The Scout Book has changed over the years. The scouting started in 1910 here in the United States. So the book has changed and evolved over the years. But with the cell phone, yes, and I do see a lot of people using it. Maybe they're looking at the virtual Scout Book. Let's hope they're doing that, but I don't think that's the case all too often. But I like to be optimistic. Scouting does reach a lot of folks on the internet as well, and that scouting has used the internet as a tool as well. But I do think that no matter what generation or what time period we're looking at, that there is a group of youth that can benefit from scouting. And we've seen that time and time again. You know, whether it was in the 30s during the Great Depression, there were still scout units. You know, whether it was during the time of the Vietnam War in the 60s and the 70s, the scout units were still thriving, and they were still working together. And even during the pandemic, a lot of the scouts were online doing the Zoom. But there's nothing like interacting at a meeting or an outing and getting out there and learning the scout skills. And yes, to your point of communication and interpersonal relationships, scouting helps tremendously, because not only are you working with others in a team to accomplish a task, you're also working with people outside your comfort zone that you might not have worked with before, whether it is tradesmen to get a job done, whether it is the rangers up at the camp to complete a task or to understand why things are getting done. You know, you're also, the scouts are advancing through merit badges, so they have to proactively call a merit badge counselor to say, hey, I'd like to work on this badge with you, can you help me? And there are certain specific items that they have to go through. Right. So, you know, it's scouting is just one of those avenues that, you know, people really could benefit from in their lives.
So what was your favorite merit badge? My
favorite merit badge, I'd have to say, was Wilderness Survival.
Well, yeah, that's a fun one.
Wilderness Survival. It was a fun one. It took me well out of my comfort zone. It put me in a place where I had to survive out in the wilderness overnight with virtually nothing except the knowledge that I had learned previously on how to build a shelter, how to make a fire, and of course they teamed you up with somebody. So this fella I didn't even know, we teamed up and we advanced you know, through the merit badge, and it's just learning a lot of different skills. So I have to say that I'm most comfortable now when I'm camping because of that.
Right, right. And the funny thing is, I don't know how many, there's over 50, I think, merit badges, right? Or at least around there.
I think there's, right? Yeah, about that.
And they change all the time, so I can't keep track. It's been a few years. But everything from cooking, and the moms will love that the kids actually like to cook because they learn to cook fun things in one pot or something.
And they have to prepare a meal at home, so that leaves, you know,
right.
So they get empowered to do that.
I remember we had to do something with our lawn or something, you know, where the kids had to maintain something, and now the father and son or the mother and daughter today can go out and they can get things done, because now we've doubled our reach because there's girls in scouting.
Yes.
It's no longer just Boy Scouts.
Yes.
And that's a wonderful thing.
Yes.
And so, you know, you have so many ways. I taught computer merit badge, photography merit badge.
Right.
There's a finance merit badge.
Right.
There's, what's the civil?
The citizenship merit.
Citizenship. There's 3 of them, 3 different
Well, now
citizenship.
there's 4.
4.
Wow.
Wow.
There's 4 citizenship merit badges, and yes, and those are required merit badges.
Right.
So when we say required, they're required for the Eagle Scout Award.
Right.
So in order to do that, there are about 20 some odd, maybe 22 required merit badges, and the 4 citizenships are. And they speak to the local community. They talk about the state and the national community as far as citizenship is concerned.
Right.
And it teaches a whole host of you know, skill sets that are patriotic, maybe from a day gone by, but they still apply today.
Right.
You know.
And what I really love about the handbook and the whole system is it starts them out with easy tasks at 5 or 6 years old, right? And they make, it might be arts and crafts that get them started, and there's a theme to it. And then they'll add on a little bit of responsibility. And then they'll pile on being a good neighbor or being a good person and not being a bully. And it walks them through everything that the schools should be walking them through.
I agree.
But don't.
I agree.
Right? And by the way, today parents, everybody works, right? And it's hard to get everything in. And now here you got a situation where these kids go on a Wednesday or a Tuesday or whatever the day is once a week. They take 2 hours and they learn something from their scout leaders.
Right.
It's approved, it's in the book. The parent could see everything that they're being taught, from swimming to canoeing to whatever, right? And it walks them through life. And they go through stages, these levels. And what are they called? They have a name
Ranks.
for the levels, ranks, right?
Ranks.
And as you go through the ranks, what I think I like the most, as a leader, I did a lot of the interviews.
Right.
And an interview is a great thing because the kids sit down with 2 or 3 interviewers, and it's like a job interview, right? And why do you think that you deserve this rank? What was the most fun you had? What did you like? What did you not like? And now the kid is interacting with adults, not necessarily the adults that they work with in their pack. Sometimes it is, or troop. They're in the pack, but they're maybe not that familiar with them.
Right.
And I think that's a good thing because it gets them used to the interview process, the life process of talking to people, working with people.
Right.
And you get a lot out of that, and I see how much the kids enjoy scouting. And of course, it's not the meetings that they love, it's the campouts and the events, and that's what you hear all the time.
Right.
And they make friends that last an absolute lifetime. And some of them make it to Eagle, because that's and those guys are just the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
I have so many stories of wonderful Eagle Scouts, guys that made Eagle, and the guys that didn't are wonderful too, because what happens is around 16, if they don't get their Eagle, perfume and gasoline get in the way.
Perhaps. Perhaps.
So, but the, and it's just funny, and that's okay because they got through as much as they could, and they got a lot out of it, and it's not for everybody to finish it, right? But I just think it's a wonderful thing.
I just think that those that come through scouting, no matter if you have been in there a year, 2 years, 3 years, or beyond that, they're taught the tenets of the scouting program, which is the Scout Law and the Scout Oath.
Right.
And I've said to people that as long as somebody says, well, I don't know if I should do this or I shouldn't do this. I said, well, let's think back on what the Scout Law tells us.
Right.
If it fits within those guidelines, then it's okay to do. If it falls without those bounds, it might be questionable, and you might want to think about whether you want to do it or not. And of course, that's, if you don't mind me repeating the Scout Law.
I would love for you to do that.
Okay. I'll use my hand signal here. And it's a scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And
what a way to live.
Yeah. I tell you, those tenets really speak, if you break them down, speak to the volume of who the individual should be. It should consume them. And it is definitely a guideline. And you said maybe it's lacking in this place in their life or that place in their life, but in scouting they get that.
But those tenets are mentioned every single meeting. It gets indoctrinated into their thinking, into their actions.
Right.
And if you start at 6 and finish at 16 or 18, and you've been saying that every week for all those years, it starts to happen magically. It becomes part of their lives.
Right.
You can't pay for that.
No.
All right? And that's why I'm such a believer in this, because these are the things that you can't do in school today. It's become taboo to tell a child or a young adult how to live their lives.
Well, there's
properly.
Some schools don't even allow scouting in.
Right.
They've said you can't come in here and hand out the flyers. I could tell you that's how I, as a 7-year-old, became familiar with scouting. Is I came home with a flyer one day and I showed my folks, and they said if there's something you want to do, then let's go down. And I watched the movie, which was on reel to reel at that time.
Right.
And it showed, and I said to one of my buddies, I said, are you going to do this? And he says, yeah. I said, then I'll do it too. And there we were off on our scouting journey. And
there you go.
It starts at a young age, and no matter how old you get, it stays with you.
We have a lot more.
Yes,
I want to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. Hey, this is Charles Di Bartolo with A Better Staten Island, and we're back with Keith Christensen, president of Boy Scouts on Staten Island. And we've just kind of been talking about just all the wonderful things that scouting does for our youth. I do want to mention that our youth in scouting does a lot for the community. There's a lot of Eagle projects. I want to start with that, and then we'll talk about a couple things that Scouts are doing that they could get involved in. So I only, right now, you know, we had, with COVID, for 2 years, everything's lied dormant. But everything is starting to come back, and
Right.
I can use like my son's Eagle Scout project
Right.
as an example.
Sure.
And it was a big one. So a lot of times people will build a butterfly garden,
Right.
take a not-for-profit and help them restore or rejuvenate something, help a church or a school or well, not a school. I think that they do help some schools.
They can
There are
help
gardens
certain
and-
schools,
Yep,
certainly.
yep. And they just help to build the community in one way or another. And we went to High Rock Park, and my son wanted to do something in High Rock Park. And so they gave him a list of like 4 or 5 items that he could do. But they told him which item it was going to be, and it was to restore the amphitheater.
Okay.
Okay, so now that amphitheater probably seats about 50 people, 60
Yeah.
people. And we painted it. We pulled up the old telephone poles that made the seats and then cut 3 or 4 telephone poles down to size, augured in the holes, placed the benches, posted the telephone
Sure.
pole. And that to me was a project for a construction crew.
Right.
We had 30 scouts and leaders. We rented equipment. We got trucks to come. My son did it all. And
Absolutely.
literally was using a golf cart to pull out some of the old telephone poles. And he went there. A lot of Eagle Scout projects take a day.
Right.
He went there for like 2 months pulling out telephone poles to make sure. And then that one day we got everybody in. They drilled the holes, put them all in, made the benches, redid the amphitheater, and then painted everything.
Right.
All in one day.
Right.
And I was like, what a project.
Well, it's all about the leadership, and you know, it's the training that the Boy Scouts have. You've got to make the plan. You've got to see if it's manageable, the plan. Then you've got to put it into action. You know, sometimes you amend the plan along the way to get it done, and that's what your son did. He was able to take the task. He was able to you know, get the resources that were needed. He had to know the strength and the weaknesses
Right.
of his workforce, which were volunteers.
Right.
You know, nobody was paid. I too am an Eagle Scout, and I got my Eagle Scout in 1990, and just because I'm president of the board of Staten Island doesn't mean you have to be a former Scout.
Right. No,
to
I'm
be
not.
on,
I never
to be
was.
on the board.
But I love it.
But a lot of people say, "Oh, I wasn't a Scout. I can't join your board." No, I come from the business community too.
Right.
And but it just so happens I'm one of those. There was about 3 past presidents as well,
Right.
throughout the 60 some odd years that the board has been around that have also been Eagle Scouts. And for my project, what I did was for the Staten Island University Hospital, I was able to have built a bookcase for the pediatric ward.
Right.
And get donations of books and stock it for the children that were infirmed there.
Awesome.
And you know, it's projects like that that help Scouts at the Eagle Scout level really become entrenched in their community and really know what it is to be a part. Because not only do they do the project, they have to sit back after the project and review it.
Right.
And that introspection of looking at themselves, looking at the team they assembled, really adds a whole nother level to what this Scout has achieved.
And they have fun doing it.
Absolutely.
You know?
And they find out so many things along the way of what worked, what didn't work. You know, you know, and the interaction and the feedback from others as well. It just speaks volumes as to how Scouts are very involved in the community. And the community might not even know. They might walk past the amphitheater.
Right.
They might walk past the food drive or the you know, or the bookcase, and they don't know that Scouts did this along the way.
That's it.
So
I think it's wonderful.
So that's why we have to keep promoting the scouting program, especially here on Staten Island.
Well, for those parents that can't get your kids to take out the garbage and mow the lawn, being a Scout is a wonderful way for them to learn responsibility and get things going. I want to talk about a few things. You know, Pouch Camp is open to the public now.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful thing. It's going to get people, I think, more into scouting, more into Staten Island has wonderful parks.
Absolutely.
And this is one of them, and it's probably one of the best.
Yeah.
So they're having an adventure day for Cub Scouts on October 1st at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And you can race Pinewood Derby cars, which is a great little project.
Yes.
I remember building with my son the Pinewood Derby car out of a small piece of wood, putting in the nails and the wheels, painting it, shaping it, and then weighting it so that it was just the proper weight, and then getting it to go fast.
Right.
Putting graphite on the wheels, whatever you had to do.
And that's the Pinewood.
I think I had more fun than my kid did.
Well, and sometimes scouts don't have somebody to turn to, you know, to help them. But that's where the unit comes in play. Maybe there are, you know, leaders, men and women within the scout unit that could help work with the scout. And
we've had many kids that don't have parents that come to scouting, that get like a big brother or a big sister type hand.
Yeah.
And they really grow.
Yeah.
And they feel, you know, they feel a connection. And I think that's important in a lot of kids' lives.
It is. It is. Whatever the void might be in anybody's life, whether it's big or small, or whether it's missing an event or missing a person, Scouting understands that. And Scouting is a very caring organization. And I've seen this throughout my whole time in Scouting. You know, it's not a handout, it's a hand up. That's to quote somebody else, though.
So this Adventure Day, 3 of the things that they're doing is Pinewood Derby cars. They'll be fishing at Lake Orback. They have archery, which is a lot of fun. Sometimes they do tomahawk throwing or potato guns or whatever, but these are the 3 things that they're doing there. There'll probably be a few other items.
Yes.
It'll be a lot of fun for kids. They'll meet other kids. They'll probably be joining Scouting. There's how many troops in Staten Island?
Oh, gee.
I think there's 40 or 60 right around there.
About there, yeah.
So this is a great way to see if you like it. Come around, come to Pouch Camp. It's right on Manor Road. I don't know the address on Manor Road, but it's right across from the JCC. When you're coming up from Victory Boulevard towards Rockland, it's right on your left-hand side. It's a big parking lot across from the JCC. It's a big, beautiful field with a gazebo. There's bathrooms. There's a couple of...
The address might be here, 1465, I believe.
Right, but 1465 is the Scout.
Right.
The Scout shack.
Right.
So that's just after it, coming up from Victory. If you're coming from Rockland, it's right. So, but definitely Saturday, October 1st, 10 to 2. Try it out. Come, take a look. Bring your kids out. Get them out of the house. Get them off their games, and let them try some real games, right? And then we also have a party at Pouch on October 13th. This is our 60th annual Good Scouts Award dinner, Good Scout Awards dinner. We're honoring Alex Zablocki, Christine Dehart, and Joseph Gaffney. And they've been a big help to the community, to Scouting. And we appreciate their work, and they're pillars in the community, and pillars in their own right, and a lot of them very active in Scouting too, have been active in Scouting, some of them. So we are honoring them. It's going to be a great dinner. Chez Vous is catering. We're having it outside for the first time. We usually do a black tie event. This will be casual and fun.
Something new.
So it'll be business casual. It'll be outside. We have 2 20-by-40 tents and Berlin Lodge with a beautiful terrace overlooking the lake. There'll be food and drink and entertainment. We have a bluegrass band. It should be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it.
Support, you know, it's to support these individuals who have given so much to the Staten Island community. It's a way of saying thank you to them. So come on out. It's a party at Pouch. It's a familiar territory. It's you know, the Scouts' home base here on Staten Island.
And that'll be October 13th, 5:30 at Pouch Camp. At Berlin Lodge, which is by the Scout Shack. There's plenty of parking. You can go to the website, which we'll put on the screen. It's a long one, so I'm not gonna I'm not gonna spell it out. But you can go there. It'll be $125 a head, and that money goes to scouting to help us support these programs. We're going to give out a lot of camperships this year. People that maybe can't afford scouting but would like to come. And also, I'd like to talk about Alpine, and I'd like to talk about Philmont and the things that happen and some of the other parks that we have. So tell me a little bit about some of those.
Well, Camp Alpine is in New Jersey. It's part of the Greater New York Council camps. It's available to scouts and scouters to do overnight events. It also has a nice facility where training can be done as well.
Yeah, they have a big pool, so if your kids don't know how to swim, they can learn there. I know mine did.
They have Cub World there as well to do some Cub Scouting.
And there's badges to be had for everyone, from swimming to wilderness survival to orienteering. They have a bunch of, what do you call them? Like there's a ship and there's things for them to play on. And it's mostly for pack kids from 6 to maybe 12, is that it? Is that the range?
10.
6 to 10.
Yeah.
And then they go into Boy Scouts.
Right.
And they do more wilderness stuff.
Right. And then we have the 10 Mile River Scout Camps up in Narrowsburg, New York.
Yep.
Where that summer camp is available to a lot of scouts to work on their merit badges to advance their rank.
Right. And that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
It's, we used to go every year. They get to sleep in a tent.
Right.
They have campfires every night.
Yeah.
And all day they work. It's like the Hogwarts of outdoors, right?
Right.
And the kids go and I find they pick up their handbooks. They're working through their handbooks. They're working on different things, and they're becoming human. They're becoming adults. Okay. They're growing as adults. They're arts and crafts and chores and accomplishments are amazing.
One of the most amazing badges I worked on was...
Okay, I'm sorry.
Was the life-saving merit badge.
Right.
But, you know, with this age of the internet that we talked about, they can Google it.
Right, there you go, there you go. All right, well, we do have to wrap up. I could talk about this for 2 hours. There's so many great things that Scouting does. Get out to Adventure Day. Come to our party at Pouch, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.